Welcome to Sarah Wood's Tale, where stories comes alive. Please do well to hit that subscription button and turn on your notification bell for subsequent stories. It was almost 6:45 p.m. when Nurse Emily Carter began preparing to leave St. Clair Hospital. She had worked a 12-hour shift and was exhausted. Her feet ached, her hair was tied back messily, and her white uniform had ink stains from her patient notes. But as always, she wore a gentle smile. Just as she grabbed her bag, the hospital speakers crackled to life. Emergency in pediatric ward. Code red. All available staff, please report immediately. Emily froze for a second, her heart thudding. She looked back down the hallway. She could ignore it. She had done her time for the day. But she couldn't. She dropped her bag and ran. When she reached the pediatric ward, it was chaos. Doctors and nurses were moving fast, voices raised, machines beeping. In the center of the room, a small boy lay on a stretcher, pale and weak. His father stood beside him, holding his hand, his face pale with fear. He's losing blood too fast. We need type AB negative now, Dr. Dale shouted, scanning the room. We've checked the blood bank. We don't have any, a nurse replied. Call other hospitals, someone said. Emily stepped forward. I may be negative, she said. Everyone turned to her. Are you sure? Dr. Dale asked. Yes. I donated blood last month. You can check my file, she replied firmly. We don't have time. Prep her, he said quickly. As they led her into the donation room, Emily's eyes lingered on the child. He looked no older than 5, his tiny chest rising and falling with shallow breaths. Beside him, his father clutched his hand, panic written all over his face. The man looked powerful, dressed in a black suit, but in that moment, he looked completely helpless. You're doing something good, Emily, Sophie, her fellow nurse, whispered as she helped her lie back. I just hope I'm not too late, Emily replied softly. Emily opened her eyes slowly. She had rested for a few minutes after the blood donation. Her head felt light, but her heart felt strangely full. She had done what she could. Now it was up to the doctors and God. She slipped out of the room quietly. No need for thanks, she thought. No one even knew her name. She didn't want recognition, she just wanted to help. Meanwhile, just down the hallway, Daniel Blake sat outside the operating room, his hands clasped together, his head bowed. For a man used to controlling boardrooms and commanding tech empires, he had never felt so powerless. His son, Liam, was all he had left. After Jasmine died in that terrible car accident 2 years ago, Daniel had buried himself in work, trying to build a life for Liam. And now, Liam was fighting for his life. Mr. Blake, Dr. Dale said, walking over, pulling off his gloves. We've stabilized Liam. The blood transfusion worked. He's responding well. Daniel stood, his knees weak. He's okay, he asked, voice shaking. He's not out of the woods yet, but he's much better. If he hadn't received that rare blood in time, the doctor trailed off, shaking his head. Daniel felt tears sting his eyes. He nodded. Who was the donor? He asked. A nurse. She didn't want to be named. She left right after the procedure. Please, I want to thank her. I'll do anything, money, gifts, just give me her name. Dr. Dale gave a small smile. Some angels walk quietly, Mr. Blake. She said no recognition. Daniel stared at the closed doors of the ICU, where his son was resting. Then find her. I want to see the woman who gave my son another chance. Back in her small apartment, Emily sank onto her bed. She hadn't eaten dinner, but she didn't care. She looked at the tiny framed photo of her and her mother on her dresser and smiled. You always said helping others would come back to me one day, Mom, she whispered. Her phone buzzed. A message from Sophie. The little boy is stable. You saved him, Em. Emily's eyes welled up. Somewhere out there, a child would wake up and smile again. That was all she needed. The next morning, the hospital buzzed with quiet chatter. Did you hear about the emergency last night? A billionaire's son almost died. Someone with rare blood saved him, one of us. They say he's a tech billionaire. Daniel Blake. Emily's heart skipped. Daniel Blake. She remembered him, dark suit, stormy eyes filled with fear, holding the boy's hand. "You okay?" Sophie asked as they passed by the nurse's station. "Yeah, just didn't know who the father was," Emily replied. "Well, you saved his only son. If this were a movie, he'd fall in love with you," Sophie teased. Emily laughed it off. "Right. Like a billionaire would even look at someone like me." But Sophie wasn't wrong. Fate had just quietly tied their lives together by blood. And neither of them even knew how deep that bond would grow. Daniel Blake sat in his car, parked just outside St. Clair Hospital. The engine was off, but his thoughts were loud. It had been a week since his son, Liam, had been saved. A week since someone, some kind soul, gave their blood without hesitation. And yet, he still didn't know who she was. He remembered Dr. Dale's words. She wanted to stay anonymous. But how could Daniel forget someone who saved his only child? He looked at the hospital entrance. Nurses walked in and out, laughing, talking, pushing medicine carts. Any one of them could be her. "Victor, find out who donated blood to Liam that night," Daniel said into his phone. "Daniel," she asked to stay unknown. "Are you sure you want to go against her wishes?" Victor replied, his voice cautious. "I don't want to harass her. I just want to say thank you," Daniel said firmly. Victor sighed. "All right. I'll do what I can." Meanwhile, across town, Emily stood in line at the local market, clutching a basket with a few vegetables and a tin of milk. She checked her purse again, just enough for this. Rent was coming up soon. Her mom's medicine bills were piling up again. And her own shoes had a tear she hadn't had time or money to fix. But she smiled at the cashier anyway. "Good evening," she said politely. "Evening, Nurse Emily," the woman greeted her, scanning the items. "Still serving the city, I see." "Trying my best," Emily replied. As she walked home, she passed a billboard. "Help save lives. Donate blood today." She paused. No one knew she had already done just that, for someone very important. But to her, he had simply been a scared father with a sick child. Later that evening, she sat at the kitchen table with her mother, Rose Carter. Her mother coughed gently, holding a cup of hot tea. "How was work today?" Rose asked. "Busy. One of the patients gave me a flower from the garden," Emily said, placing the tiny pink bloom on the table. "That's sweet. And how are you, sweetheart?" "I'm okay," Emily lied, her voice soft. "Tired, but okay." A week later, Emily arrived at a health outreach event in the city park. St. Clair Hospital was one of the sponsors, and several staff members had been asked to volunteer for free checkups. Emily set up her station under a white tent, arranging thermometers, a blood pressure machine, and small paper forms. The sun was bright, the air buzzing with energy. Children ran across the grass while music played from speakers. "Hey Emily, you're at Station 3, Sophie said, passing by with a clipboard. "You good?" "Yeah, all set," Emily replied. "Let's help some people." A few hours later, while taking a break with a bottle of water, Emily noticed a familiar face walking through the park with a little boy. Daniel Blake. She blinked, unsure if it was really him. He was in casual clothes this time, dark jeans, a navy shirt, sunglasses on his head. He looked normal. Not like a billionaire at all. The boy beside him held his hand tightly. It was Liam. He looked stronger now. A little pale, but walking and even laughing as he pointed at balloons floating nearby. "Do you want to go say hi?" Sophie whispered, suddenly appearing beside Emily. "Why would I?" Emily said quickly. "Because you saved that boy's life." "He doesn't know that," Emily replied, turning away. Minutes later, as fate would have it, Daniel approached the medical tents with Liam. The boy needed a quick health check before he could join the children's play area. "Hello, sir," Sophie greeted. "Welcome to the St. Clair medical tent. We're offering free checkups." "Thank you," Daniel said politely. "Liam, would you like to say hello?" "Hi," Liam said shyly, his small hand gripping his dad's shirt. Daniel's eyes met hers. For a moment, there was silence. "You can sit here," she said, her voice calm and professional. She knelt to Liam's level, smiling gently. Hi there, I'm Nurse Emily. I just need to check how healthy you are. Is that okay? Liam nodded. She took his temperature, then gently wrapped the blood pressure cuff around his arm. Daniel watched her. There was something about her voice. Something comforting, familiar. But he couldn't place it. You're really good with kids, Daniel said. Thank you. I love working with them, Emily replied. Have we met before? He asked suddenly. Emily's hands paused for a second, but she smiled. I don't think so, sir. I just work at St. Clair. Daniel nodded slowly. Right. When the checkup was done, Liam gave Emily a shy wave. Thank you, nurse, he said sweetly. You're welcome, little hero, Emily replied. Daniel offered a handshake. Thank you for your kindness, he said. Emily hesitated, then shook his hand. It was warm, firm, and familiar. A strange feeling passed through her chest, but she pushed it down. Just doing my job, she replied. As they walked away, Daniel looked back once, puzzled. There was something about her eyes. Daddy. Liam tugged at his sleeve. She's nice. Can we see her again? Daniel smiled at his son. Maybe we will. Back at her station, Emily sat down, her heart racing. He didn't know. He hadn't recognized her. And somehow, she was both relieved and disappointed. The following week, the city buzzed with its usual rhythm, but something had shifted quietly for both Emily and Daniel. Daniel hadn't stopped thinking about the nurse from the outreach event. There was something calming about her soft smile, the way Liam had instantly connected with her. It wasn't common for Liam to open up quickly, especially after all he'd been through. So, Daniel made a quiet decision. On Thursday afternoon, Emily walked into the St. Clair outpatient clinic and found an unexpected surprise. Emily, Nurse Grace called, handing her a patient form. You've got a walk-in, father and son. No appointment. They asked for you. Emily raised an eyebrow, curious. She walked into the small exam room and froze. Daniel sat there with Liam, both smiling. Hello again, Daniel said, standing up. Hope this isn't strange. Liam insisted we come see Nurse Emily today. Liam waved eagerly. Hi, Nurse Emily. Emily's heart did a little flip. She smiled, though unsure what to say. Hi, Liam. Hi. Mr. Blake. This is unexpected. Call me Daniel, please. I hope it's okay we came, he said politely. We were in the area, figured we'd say hi. Emily nodded and motioned for Liam to sit on the small checkup bed. No problem at all. Let me take a quick look. She checked Liam's vitals while he told her about a drawing he made at school. It's a rocket ship. And there's a planet with puppies on it. Liam said with bright eyes. Emily laughed. That's the best planet I've ever heard of. Daniel watched her from the corner, quietly admiring the way she spoke to his son, how she made everything feel lighter. After the checkup, they lingered. Do you have a break coming up? Daniel asked casually. Emily hesitated. It was quiet in the clinic that afternoon. 10 minutes. I could use some air. They sat outside under a tree near the parking lot, sipping coffee from the hospital machine. You're great with Liam, Daniel said after a moment. He doesn't open up to many people. He's a sweet kid. Brave too. I can tell he's been through a lot, Emily replied gently. Daniel looked down, his voice softening. We lost his mother 2 years ago. Car accident. Since then, it's been just the two of us. I'm so sorry, Emily said sincerely. There was a pause. You're doing a good job, she added. Daniel looked at her, surprised. No one said that to him often. Thank you. I don't always feel like I am. Emily smiled faintly. None of us really do. But Liam's happy. That means something. He nodded. Silence sat comfortably between them. But inside, Emily was fighting a storm. She liked being around them, more than she wanted to admit. And that scared her. 2 days later, Emily was helping out in the main hospital when Dr. Dale passed by. He smiled and stopped beside her station. Emily, you've been busy lately, he joked. Trying to keep up, she replied with a tired grin. He glanced at the chart in her hand. By the way, I saw Daniel Blake and his son visited the clinic. I heard Liam asked for you personally. That's quite the bond. Emily nodded slowly. Yeah, he's a sweet boy. Dr. Dale leaned against the wall, arms folded. You know, you were the one who saved him. I'm not sure if I ever thanked you properly for that. Emily's eyes widened. Wait, what? The boy who needed AB-negative blood that night, that was Liam Blake. Daniel's son, Dr. Dale said casually, not realizing her shock. Emily felt the air leave her lungs. Liam is the child I donated blood for, she whispered. Yes, Dr. Dale said, now realizing her reaction. Oh, I thought you knew. She didn't speak. Her mind raced. All this time, she had been spending time with Liam. With Daniel. Without knowing the truth. Emily, Dale said softly. Are you okay? I need a minute, she said, walking away quickly. She found an empty room and leaned against the wall, her heart pounding. I saved his son, and he doesn't know. Everything suddenly felt complicated. Was she getting close to them because of guilt? Or something else? That evening, Daniel sent her a message through the clinic system. Thank you for today. Liam hasn't stopped talking about you. Would you join us for lunch sometime? Emily stared at the screen for a long time. She wanted to say yes. But now that she knew the truth, she wasn't sure if it was right. She replied, You're welcome. I'm really glad Liam is doing better. Let's talk soon. It was a safe answer. Neutral. But her heart felt anything but neutral. Because now, she wasn't just Nurse Emily. She was the woman who gave her blood to save his son. And that secret was starting to feel heavier with each passing day. Emily sat at a quiet cafe near the hospital, stirring her coffee absent-mindedly. Across the table, Daniel watched her with a soft smile. It was their first time meeting outside the hospital setting. Liam was at school, and the two adults had decided to grab lunch together. It's rare I get a peaceful moment like this, Daniel said, glancing around the quiet space. Running a business and raising a child doesn't leave much room for sitting still. I can imagine, Emily replied with a warm smile. Though I can't say my life is any less crazy. He chuckled. You've got one of the toughest jobs in the world. Long shifts, tired patients, and yet, you still manage to smile. It's not always easy, she admitted, looking down. But helping people, it's worth it. There was a short silence before Daniel's expression turned more serious. Do you ever feel like life didn't turn out the way you expected? Emily looked up, her eyes meeting his. All the time. Daniel exhaled deeply and leaned back in his chair. I don't usually talk about this, but my wife, Claire, passed away 2 years ago. She was driving home from her mother's when a drunk driver ran a red light. It was instant. Emily's face softened with compassion. I'm so sorry, Daniel. Liam was only 4, he continued, his voice cracking slightly. He didn't understand what happened. He kept asking when Mommy was coming home. Emily reached across the table, placing her hand gently over his. That must have been so hard. For both of you. He nodded slowly. Some days, I still don't know what I'm doing. I try to be strong for Liam. I try to give him everything. But, there are moments when I feel like I'm barely holding it together. Emily's eyes shimmered. She could see the pain behind his eyes, the weight of grief and fatherhood. You're doing more than enough, Daniel, she said softly. And Liam is lucky to have you. He looked at her, a small smile forming. What about you? What's your story? Emily hesitated. Sharing wasn't easy for her either. But something about him made her feel safe. My dad left when I was 12, she began. My mom has been sick for years. I've been working ever since I finished school, just to keep things going. That's a lot to carry, he said gently. It is, she whispered. Sometimes I wish I had someone to lean on. But I've learned to keep going. They sat in silence for a moment, their hearts silently recognizing the pain in each other. You're stronger than you know, Daniel said, his voice low. Emily looked at him, and for the first time in a long time, she let her guard down. And in that quiet corner of the cafe, 2 broken souls began to understand each other. Days passed. Daniel found himself thinking about Emily more often. Her calm strength. Her smile. The way Liam lit up whenever she was around. Victor, his longtime assistant, entered his office holding a folder. "Sir, I found the file you asked for. The blood donor form from that night." Daniel took it slowly, heart pounding. "She never wanted to be named," Victor reminded him. "Are you sure about this?" "I need to know," Daniel said softly. "I need to thank her properly." He opened the file and froze. Donor, Emily Carter. His breath caught in his throat. Emily? Nurse Emily? Memories flashed, her voice at the clinic, the way she looked at Liam, her eyes filled with warmth. She knew, he whispered. All this time, she knew. That evening, he waited outside the hospital. Emily stepped out after her shift, surprised to see him by her car. "Daniel, what are you doing here? Can we talk?" he asked, his voice serious. "Please." She nodded slowly, sensing the weight in his tone. They walked to a quiet bench near the hospital garden. "I found out today," Daniel began, eyes locked on hers. "You were the one who donated blood to save Liam." Emily's eyes widened, but she didn't deny it. "Yes," she said quietly. "Why didn't you tell me?" he asked, his voice thick with emotion. "Because I didn't do it for praise," she replied gently. "That night, there was a child in need. I didn't care who he was. I just wanted to help. But it was my son," he said, stepping closer. "You saved my son, Emily. You gave him a second chance." Tears filled his eyes. "I don't even know how to thank you." Emily looked down, her voice trembling. "You already did. Every time you smile at him, every time he laughs or runs or tells silly stories about planets with puppies, that's all the thanks I need." Daniel was silent for a moment, overwhelmed. "I feel so foolish," he said. "I've been spending time with you, drawn to you, not even realizing. You've already given me the greatest gift of my life." "I didn't want things to change between us," she admitted. "I didn't want you to feel like you owed me something." "I don't feel like I owe you," Daniel said, stepping even closer. "I feel like I found you." Their eyes met. "Emily," he whispered, "you're more than the nurse who helped us. You're part of Liam's story now. And mine too." A single tear rolled down her cheek. "This changes everything, Daniel." "It does," he agreed. "But maybe, that's not such a bad thing." For the first time since the night of the emergency, everything was out in the open. And in the middle of that truth, something new was born: honesty, connection, and the beginning of something deeper. Daniel sat at his office desk, looking out the large window. The sun was setting over the city, casting golden light into the room. But his thoughts weren't on his business deals or the phone buzzing with notifications. His eyes were fixed on a photo on his phone, Liam and Emily laughing together in the hospital garden. There was a special piece in that picture. One he hadn't seen in years. It reminded him of how far they had come, from fear and loss to hope and something like happiness. He opened his laptop, hesitated, then opened his social media account. He began to type. "A while ago, I almost lost my son, Liam. He was very sick and needed a rare blood type. I was helpless, watching him slip away. But someone, a stranger, gave us a miracle. A young nurse stepped forward to donate blood without knowing who she was saving. That stranger turned out to be Emily. Not only did she save my son's life, but she also brought light back into ours. She gave without expecting anything in return. She is a hero. She is our family." He attached the photo of Emily and Liam, his fingers hovering over the post button. Then he clicked it. At first, there were only a few likes. But within minutes, it exploded. #Thank you Nurse Emily began trending. Thousands of people shared, commented, and reacted. People were touched by the story of sacrifice and unexpected love. News outlets started calling. Celebrities reposted the story. Everyone wanted to know who this nurse was. The next morning, Emily was walking through the hospital entrance, sipping her tea when Nurse Grace ran toward her, wide-eyed and breathless. "Emily, you're everywhere. You're trending. What are you talking about?" Emily asked, confused. Grace handed her a phone. "Daniel posted about you. The story. The donation. Everything." Emily's eyes widened as she read the post. Her hands trembled slightly. He posted this without telling me, she whispered. Everyone's calling you a hero. Reporters are outside. The Ministry of Health wants to honor you. You're famous now. Emily was stunned. She'd only done what she believed was right. She didn't expect praise. She just wanted to help. Later that day, reporters flooded the hospital corridors. Microphones, cameras, flashing lights, it was overwhelming. Miss Emily, how did it feel knowing you saved a billionaire's child? Do you and Mr. Blake have plans to get married? What made you donate blood that day? Emily answered politely but kept her answers short. She didn't like the attention. Fame felt like a spotlight she didn't ask for. That evening, Daniel picked her up in his car. She slid into the passenger seat quietly. You okay? He asked gently. She looked at him, her face calm but tired. I don't like all this attention, Daniel. I'm sorry, he said. I should have asked you. I wanted people to see what kindness looks like. Maybe it will inspire others. I know, she sighed. I'm glad it's helping. But I've always liked my quiet life. Now everyone's watching me, judging, asking questions. Daniel nodded, his voice soft. I didn't mean to make your life harder. I wanted to honor you. She turned to him with a small smile. I forgive you. But let's not make me into something I'm not. I'm not a hero. I'm just someone who saw a child in need and helped. He reached over and took her hand. That's exactly why you're a hero to me. And in that quiet car, with the city lights passing by, they sat in peace. Fame would fade. But what they had was real. A few weeks later, the media storm had calmed. Emily was no longer on every screen, and life was beginning to return to normal. She was grateful. Though people still recognized her at the clinic or in the market, they approached with kindness. The hospital had even created a yearly blood donation campaign in her name, the Emily Act of Love. But more than any award or recognition, Emily treasured her time with Daniel and Liam. Liam had grown so attached to her that he called her every night before bed. They read bedtime stories over video calls. Sometimes, he fell asleep mid-sentence. One weekend, Daniel invited her over to his home. She wore a simple blue dress and carried a small bag of Liam's favorite cookies. Liam opened the door. Nurse Emily, you came. I missed you, she smiled. Daddy cooked pasta. Again. He says it's good, but I still like chicken nuggets. Daniel laughed from the kitchen. She's here 5 minutes and you're already reporting on me. They all sat down for dinner. Laughter filled the room. It felt like home. After dessert, Daniel asked Emily to join him in the garden. The sky was full of stars. A gentle breeze rustled the flowers. He took her hand and led her to the bench under the old tree. He turned to her. Emily, I never imagined someone would come into our lives and change everything. Daniel. Wait, he said softly. Let me say this. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. I know we've faced a lot. And there's more ahead. But there's no one else I'd rather face it with. He opened the box. Inside was a simple silver ring with a tiny heart-shaped diamond. Not because you saved Liam. But because you saved me, too. Will you marry me? Emily's eyes filled with tears. She covered her mouth, then nodded slowly. Yes. Yes, Daniel. He slipped the ring onto her finger, and they embraced, their hearts finally open and whole. Just then, Liam peeked through the garden door. Did she say yes, Daddy? She did. Liam ran over and hugged them both. Can I call her Mommy now? Emily knelt to his level, smiling through tears. Yes, sweet boy. I would love that. The wedding was a small, private ceremony held under the same tree where Daniel proposed. Emily wore a simple white dress. Liam stood between them, proudly holding the rings. There were tears, laughter, and vows filled with love. Not long after, they moved into a quiet house near the hospital. Emily kept working, but now with a family waiting for her at home. Every Sunday, they baked cookies. Every evening, they sat on the porch watching the sunset. One evening, Liam sat between them, doodling on paper. I'm glad you gave me your blood, Mommy. Emily kissed his forehead. Me too. Daniel wrapped his arm around both of them. And as the sun dipped below the horizon, they sat there not as billionaire and nurse, not as savior and saved, but as a family. Bound by love. Bound by one unforgettable act of kindness. Please don't forget to hit the like button, comment, and subscribe to get more interesting stories like this.